We have just had a big bang.
So internet is something that is very strong in the HSM markets.
South is also pretty strong in the linear television.
Gaming, interestingly, is a fairly significant chunk of our media.
In reality, anyone who steps out of his home is technically exposed to out of home.
We are in the midst of nothing short of a big bang in media, with AI disrupting things at the discovery end and quick commerce disrupting right at the last touch. Media is no longer just about reach, frequency and impact. Media is the full spectrum. Media is commerce, media is distribution, media is service, and of course media is reputation. We have with us Ajay Gupte of Wavemaker, we have V Krishnan of TAM, and Punit Avasthi from Kantar. If you're talking of a unified media measurement, the first thing that we all must have is that all channels that we are going to consider, we must have on one study, on one base. You know, we must be able to say, okay, this is my audience. This is how we define based on demographics and ownership. And then in that audience, what is the pecking order of all channels? Now, we have not had that for a long time, you know. So, we have now, fortunately, a study done by Kantar. So, we are going to look at what this media compass is about. So, Punit, can you briefly tell us first about the methodology in short? And then you can get into the top lines of what your media compass is showing us in terms of the pecking order of channels, the penetration of various channels.
I guess over the last few years, given the advance of digital, the primary task has been to understand how to deal with digital and its manifestations, including e-commerce and the retail media networks that are there, along with the conventional reach drivers as such as linear television, etc. So that is really what has been occupying the minds of advertisers and media planners. Our effort is to start kind of, addressing this gap that is there, where there is traditional media, there is digital media, and digital media in its multiple manifestations. As also, of course, there are consumers across different cohorts who are interacting with media in a very different manner as such. What we've tried to do is to kind of, create an integrated view of the consumer. We do a study called IQ, where we've got a sample size of 90,000. It is something that is very well established and used extensively by players, leading digital players to plan their efforts as such. So IQ is something that is a fairly sizable sample size, cutting across urban and rural. That is the recipient data. The donor data is from another study that we run called Target Group Index, or TGI, where we've got deep profiling of the consumer in terms of the consumer's psychographics, lifestyles, consumers' category and brand consumption choices, as also their media behavior. Now, what we've done is we've taken from TGI, having established the probabilistic matches, we've taken from TGI the media choices of people, particularly in the traditional media sphere, to create a single view of the consumer across both traditional and digital. And that is how we've created the single currency, and we've launched it earlier this year, called Media Compass.
Puneet, I had a question for you. This data has got so many wonderful insights in it. And on the other hand, you have the Kantar World Panel. If you were to bring the two data sets together, you would actually have genuine single source data, media exposure, brand purchase. I think that would be a brilliant piece of information that a lot of marketers would love to get their hands on. Do you think that is possible? Is that something that can be done? Because if it could be done, I think we would have something really fantastic at our hands.
I agree. We are moving towards kind of, integrating different pieces of information basis probabilistic matches, and I guess those are the conversations and the future engineering task for us as such. So very much those would be some of the things that we'd be looking at. First, what we are looking at is a world where linear TV continues to be the strongest component of our media behavior as such today in terms of preferences. But really the entire playing field has gotten cluttered with several digital media as such, and that is a very significant component to it. So there's linear television, there is social media, there is video, there is and within that there is WhatsApp, there is YouTube. These are the dominant constituents as such, and then there is out of home. So to my mind, we are in a very interesting mix where there is traditional that is playing, there is linear television that is holding forth. Gaming, interestingly, is a fairly significant chunk of our media time as such, with 1 in 2 Indians who are above 15 years age band are actually interacting with and spending time with gaming platforms. WhatsApp with an equivalent number as gaming, and then we've got YouTube. As we move down the socio-economic spectrum, we are seeing a higher, gaming holding its own as such. So it's it is an interesting one to keep track of, and within that to look at what kind of gaming platforms are really working with the NCCS CDE versus the NCCS A. We are looking at is the viewership choices of people across different segments of the society, and essentially we are looking at linear television, and clearly what is coming out is that in the Hindi speaking markets, linear television's reach as such, and these are also media, significant chunk of them are in the media dark parts of the country, is at 41% as compared to the south of the country, where linear television is reached by 4 in 5 4 in 5 people in the south are actually using linear television as we speak as such, and rest of the country it is also reasonably higher, about 69%. So clearly there is linear television is a good way of reaching consumers in the south, consumers in the rest of the country, but in the HSM markets there is a big gap. We are looking at close to about 60% of the market not reached via linear television. The other interesting thing is linear television is fairly strong with the teenagers or the less. And interesting thing is we are estimating that linear television has a stronger reach with the younger people.
The way the universes are getting built from a overall census basis actually is that television is getting broken down into 2 pieces. Okay, when I say linear television, okay, there's a paid television and there's a free television. Now each of them are more or less now coming into a equal proportion actually. So a paid television is getting broken down into 2 more parts, which is a paid DTH and a paid MSO part. Yes. Now if I look at these 2 components, they are more or less equal now, okay, from a 33% share of the market actually. And another 33% is actually a free to air one. So each having around close to 55 to 60 million homes.
What we are looking at is that internet is today digital in all its manifestations, is today the single largest component of media and its reach as such, particularly when one is targeting the HSM markets. So internet is something that is very strong in the HSM markets. CTV is a fairly small component at about 7% across HSM markets, but it is one that has its own momentum, and we'd be looking at CTV in detail in subsequent slides.
If you're looking at fragmentation, okay, and therefore there is a gain-loss analysis being done on the HSM market, you're seeing the fact that there's a loss on linear television, gain on digital, and also a gain on connected TV. On the south, there's a linear TV continuing to sustain itself well. Connected TV is growing, digital is growing, connected TV is growing too actually.
Yes.
So So what it definitely says is the fact that there's an incredible explosion in consumption that is happening over there. Okay, transcending across platforms. Okay, not restricted only to one particular platform itself, which means the fact that the more you give good content, irrespective of what the platform is, it's not the fact that people are making a choice, saying the fact that, hey, this platform is where I will always go for my content actually. They're saying the fact that I have access to all the platforms. What is going to give me content is what I want to watch. So now it means the fact that the ball is in the court of the content creators actually. Okay? And the ball is in the court of the content creators not just from providing content, okay, but also being present on as many platforms as possible, so that if I'm not able to access one platform, there's another platform that I'm available to deliver the content. Okay.
No, and to add to it the predicament of the planner, suppose you are looking at Metro and NCCS A and South, you are screwed, no?
Yeah. You know, there's a very interesting thing that I saw in advertising too, actually. Okay, if I look at the HSM market, okay, there's a slippage happening on linear television advertising, unique. I mean, in the sense, solo usage of linear television, moving into mix of linear and digital, and slowly moving away only into digital. Okay, there's a continuous drop happening on the first two segments. Okay. In the South, on the other hand, 70% of the advertisers are continuing to be on linear television actually. Okay. What it was 3 years back is still getting sustained in 2025 actually, which means the fact that the advertisers have still not left linear television. Okay. It is trying to experiment with digital. In terms of quantum, it's much lower than the HSM market, and also at the same time experimenting with the connected TV too actually. So what is getting reflected from a consumer perspective is also getting reflected from an advertiser's perspective, from the way they
we're looking at the reach of all channels by Pop Strata and by socio-economic class, and what we find is that actually if you look at socio-economic class, almost all of these media channels or categories actually fall in terms of their reach as we move from NCCS A to NCCS DE. What that essentially implies is that at the top of the pyramid, we've got a plethora of media options, and which actually complicates the decision metrics for media planners. But as we move down the socio-economic spectrum, we are looking at a declining reach for all media platforms or channels, and that indicates that there is, these are segments where even if you were to look at each one of them and their intersections for driving reach.
Another thing I saw, Punit, which I thought was, quite an eye-opener for quite a few people, because although we do see this every day, I don't think it would strike too many that digital is now the lead medium, whether you look at small towns or you look at lower SECs. I think that has, that we now have the data that you have presented, which clearly shows that digital is now penetrating areas which earlier you would never have thought possible, but it's become a lead medium and becoming extremely important. So the entire width of consumers, whether high SEC, low SEC, or even large town or small town, digital is actually making an impact. I think that's a very interesting thing that is coming out from the data, and you could tell us more about that.
That's right. Digital actually has bridged a lot of divides. The media divide has certainly been bridged by digital. The phone, the ubiquitous phone, actually is a big leveler, and it is about using that effectively, whether via digital communications or via voice communications. Those are all things to be to ponder on as such and use effectively. When we are looking at connected television, it's a very interesting story. Very strong in metro, but it's not that they do connected television doesn't exist in rest of urban. It is a fairly significant number at about 15% of people in and it's fairly recent. Connected television and the emergence of it is a very recent phenomena. It is at about 15%. Even in rural, deep rural, we are looking at about 6%, and it is very heavily concentrated. So, say Telangana or Andhra Pradesh or Punjab and Haryana, or Maharashtra, are where connected television in rural also has a presence. So, it is important to identify the right markets to kind of use the benefits of connected television effectively.
Yeah, so I've seen that 49% of metros are NCCS A, and CTV penetration is at 27%, which means that a lot of the NCCS A is actually getting covered by the CTV audience, and CTV is therefore becoming an extremely important media option when you're wanting to talk to NCCS A. I think that's a very interesting piece that has come out in the data.
Very true. Very true. A large chunk of them have moved to CTV. So a large chunk of them certainly have a smart television set. But the migration from a habit of either accessing their content via dish or otherwise via cable to the connected TV ecosystem as such is something that is happening, but it is gathering pace. And to my mind, it is something that needs to be, it's a space to be watched. And therefore, the need to invest in something like Media Compass, which is kind of, tracking it on a quarter-to-quarter basis, and therefore enabling advertisers and media planners to really get a bang for the buck as such.
The other element actually, Ajay, Punit, is what you have stated about this connected TV part actually. If you look at the chart that you're showing in, it's not only just metros, but South seem to be pretty strong on connected TV.
Yeah.
Interestingly, South is also pretty strong on the linear television. When I go back to around 12 years back, when DAS got introduced, the digital addressable system got introduced into the television marketplace, where you needed to route the content on television through the set-top box and then get it on television set. But over time, because of the presence of the younger generation in the home and the education happening to the elder generation, it transcends pretty fast actually. So it took around close to 3 to 4 years for the adoption to actually happen. So even the connected TV adoption will very quickly happen as long as content is available. The another aspect that can come into play on connected TV is dividing connected TV into two parts. What is called always connected TV. That means that home has actually cut the cord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And cord cutters, which are somewhat connected TV actually. Okay. So the somewhat connected TV is the fire stakes and the chroming of the connectivity onto the bigger device actually.
Of course, online shopping is quite big in urban India particularly, but 17% in rural is not to be scoffed at. It is also quite a significant number. But we are looking at close to about 2 in 3 in metros who are shopping online these days, and that is the kind of size of the audience that online shopping platforms command. We need to look at how many of them are consuming messages, etc., and that's something that we will look at subsequently. But a fairly significant constituency that online shopping platforms represent in urban India, and particularly in NCCS A as also NCCS B.
We've observed, a very interesting trend that search is actually moving to commerce websites. And that's a great opportunity and extremely interesting, because the place of purchase is where the search is really happening. Have you seen this happening? What are the implications of it? And is there any data that you have that details this out a little bit more?
So search in within the e-commerce platforms is something that we haven't yet looked at, but that is something that we will be incorporating as part of the study in the next few rounds, and we should have a read on that.
For digital, the minimum budget required is very, very high because of the fragmentation. And which is where, if you are spending suboptimally on digital, then you don't see any result that you can track or measure, especially when you do not have a tracking mechanism which goes right till the end. You have clicks, you have time spent, all that you have. But then the missing link is in terms of, so has it increased my sales? Is that sales because of this? Or is it impacting any other parameter which will help me increase my sales? And typically they do not even have strong enough research. Do not have, and there are a lot of such advertisers, okay? Lots and lots of such advertisers. And then what I have seen is many of them are saying, let's do one thing. Let's focus on retail. Yeah, focus on your online retail, no problem. But focus on retail, online retail, and let's stick to outdoor. Because at least I know that if outdoor is there, I know that site is here, I know there are people around, I see people all over, and I know that they will see. I just thought that's one anecdote I have on outdoor, more from the mid advertisers than long tail advertisers.
Outdoor is something that is fairly strong, and it's kind of holding its own. It kind of allows brands to create, if well handled, very larger than life experiences for the brand as such. So it's important to understand the nature of messaging that will cut through in outdoors, and to my mind it is something that can create a fairly important layer in the media mix for brands.
I think out of home has always got the wrong end of the stick with any research. Usually 35%, 45%, 55% reach is the kind of numbers you will see. But in reality, anyone who steps out of his home is technically exposed to out of home, right? So then if you're stepping out, you have exposure to out of home. So it's kind of 100%. Yes, but it is not that easy, to make it effective, because every piece of hoarding, every vehicle that you use is restricted to a certain geography.
Boils down to the fact that what is it that the brand wants to do in a communication campaign actually. So brand building, reach out actually happens through the mass media, and the conversion to purchase or a call to action happens at the last mile through various components of small fragmented pieces. One of them is actually the out of home actually. Okay. And in that out of home there are multiple components to it actually. So for years together, the best studies have been Walmart studies on their chain of supermarkets, and every study that Walmart has done, or even some of the things that we have done for when Future Media was enacting its own media inside Future stores actually. Okay. You could see how the retail media is creating conversions for brands which are very localized in nature and hasn't had mass visibility at all, in creating an uptake in it. Okay. And the exposure to conversion ratios can be as high as around 4% to 5% actually, okay, which is fantastic in that kind of a small arena.
Yeah. So Punit, maybe the physical retail media, do you think has that been researched adequately, and we know effects of that? Is it given enough emphasis? You think overall it's getting that importance it deserves?
I believe that there is going to be it was something that kind of was very salient in the minds of advertisers. As the modern trade revolution kind of took arrived in India as such, but in-store advertising is something that I tend to think that would be relevant and increasingly so in specific categories where there is a lot more shopping physical presence based shopping that's going to be happening as such. So it's something that needs to be invested in. I don't think as much has been invested in as of now.
In India, there's a limited research that has actually happened, okay, because the chains that are there in terms of creating convenience stores are very limited in nature.
Yes.
Right? But abroad, when I look at studies coming from Walmart, Auto, 7-Eleven, etc., there's been enough to indicate the fact that how the last mile is influencing purchase, communication is influencing purchase. And the best part of it is the fact that it's exploding. Every device is becoming digital. Those arenas are also having digital devices, allowing you to therefore communicate dynamically per se. And because it's connected devices over there, okay, and with near field location being is accessible in nature, you're able to pinpoint what kind of customer is coming from which area, in which retail arena he is in, and therefore send him an a quick communication to him.
So from this discussion on Kantar Media Compass, we have covered a lot of ground, and actually we have come up with 10 strategic markers for channel optimization. So it's been a very interesting insight. Thank you so much, everybody.